So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Cindy Holmes. I'm the director of the School of Intuition and Healing. We have a friend, I'm not going to say an old friend because that's wrong. We have a friend of the school who's known us for some time. It's Linn, who is a quantum healer, a psychic reader, a spiritual mentor, and an author. Her first career was that of a writer and an editor, and then Heather decided to train as an energy healer. She has run a thriving practice in Cape Town for 15 years before focusing on her teaching role, where she founded the Emerald Wisdom School, which offers energy tools for the new earth. Tonight, we're going to be focusing on her book, No Gold Without the Dragon, Wisdom Teachings of a Quantum Healer. A very warm welcome to you, Heather.
Thanks, Cindy. Thanks for the introduction. And wow, it's really lovely to be here and also just to connect with you again.
Really nice. It was lovely. We kind of disconnected for a while, and then we've kind of drifted back into doing work and presenting things together. So we're going to do this as an interview format tonight. I'm going to ask everyone if they can keep their questions until the end of the evening. Also, please, if I can say that there is going to be a beautiful Earth Star meditation at the end of the evening once we finish chatting about Heather's book and her experience as a healer. Please stay for that, because that's really where we come together in unity, in the collective. We raise the vibration of our whole such that we can raise the vibration of the planet at this extraordinary time, this very extraordinary time of our species. So Heather, let's dive straight in. And I really want to talk to you, and I think we need to start at the beginning. Do you want to really talk us into how your journey as a healer started and what led you to take this path? I'm always interested to know that, because it's never nothing.
Yeah, it wasn't nothing. I had quite a dramatic start, and I just want to say before I tell my story, it doesn't have to be so dramatic. But I had an awakening event when I was 21 years old. It was a near-death experience when I was involved in a very serious car crash here in South Africa. And yeah, I mean, at some point when the car was rolling down the highway, I was aware of that. And then suddenly I wasn't in the car anymore. I'd left my body. I was in a very quiet space. And I remember it was really still and very light, and it was like time had stopped, all those things. I think, we've probably read many of these stories now. But at the time I hadn't read any of those stories. And so it was a very strange experience. But I was aware at some point that there was a being with me, a light being. And I was given a choice by this being who said that I could carry on further into the light, this incredibly light space, or I could return to my body and continue with my life. And I was told that I just had to think the choice. And I remember a moment of hesitation, because it was actually really blissful in this space, and I didn't really want to leave and come back. But then I had this thought, and it was just there. I haven't finished what I came to do. And I mean, at 21, I had no idea what that was, but it was such a strong thought that it jerked me back into my body. So as you can imagine, this experience had a huge impact on my life. It was really life-changing because I had a totally different perspective. I knew now that there was another reality. I'd experienced this other dimension beyond what we can see in ordinary life. And I'd also connected with my first spirit guide, the one who was with me on the other side. And while I was recovering from my injuries, she told me that my purpose was to heal myself and others. So at 21, that was quite like daunting. And after that, once I'd recovered, I started experiencing this kind of explosion of psychic awareness where I was just seeing things everywhere, things that hadn't happened yet. And it was like this doorway just opened. And it was quite difficult to deal with all that psychic information because, yeah, I mean, this was the 80s. There was no Google to help me out, and South Africa was very isolated. So it was a pretty tough initiation at that time. But it really did wake me up to my life purpose of being a healer and initiated that journey. And yeah, I had to learn how, it was a long road, but the path took me down a road of learning how to manage that sensitivity and information. Yeah.
Wow, yeah, that near-death experience is something else. When I too experienced at a young age, but kind of gives you a great perspective of the light. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
You mentioned in the book that healers were once persecuted, but are now stepping into the light. What has this shift meant to you personally? This real shift of the healers being recognized, I guess, more.
Yeah. Well, I mean, of course, it's huge. It's huge for everybody who's a healer archetype. And there are so many of us that are incarnating at this time because of the sort of mass awakening that's happening. But, you know, many healers and also teachers, spiritual teachers, have experienced persecution, often through multiple lifetimes. So, you know, that leaves a deep imprint and a lot of fear often about using our gifts again. So for me personally, I actually took a vow in a previous lifetime to never, ever be a healer again because I'd had such... Yeah, so, I mean, part of my journey was I had to first unearth that vow, and then I had to do a lot of work with that particular past life over a period of about 4 years, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a big one. And, you know, just to clear that vow and literally like get back into the saddle and say, okay, right, I can do this again. And I'm willing to use my gifts again. But I think through that experience, I've been able to help a lot of other healer archetypes. I call it the witch's imprint. Yeah, as witches, you know, we've got to kind of own that, but we also do need to deal with the past imprints, the traumas from sometimes very hectic torture and persecution by the most terrible means.
And it's interesting how once that past life is released, how something just shifts energetically for us once we have the awareness. So not great, but part of the initiation, part of that learning of yourself. Part of the journey, exactly.
Yeah.
So, Heather, I'm curious around, you talk about facing your own dragons in the book. What were some of the biggest dragons you had to confront on your healing journey? What were these dragons?
Well, I think this witch's imprint was a big one. Yeah. That really was a big dragon that I couldn't proceed until I'd really dealt with that fear and the resistance to doing this again, right? But in the book, the dragon theme emerged when I was writing about a really difficult time of my life. And the dragon quickly became a kind of a carrier for the shadow, for the feeling world that's stirred up by challenges. So in the book, I talk about the dragon of fear and the dragon of grief and the dragon of anger. And yeah, it had many faces. It was a bit like a shapeshifter. But the dragon often showed up at a time of initiation into a new phase or a new lesson. And I guess for me, the two biggest dragons or initiations in my life are the near-death experience that I've spoken about, and later a very heartbreaking divorce from the father of my children, which initiated a big transformation process for me. More at a personal level, obviously, than the healing, but it had to happen in order that I could work with a lot of karmic stuff. So there have been other dragons initiations, but those were the biggies.
Yeah, and then in the integration of the shadow after those big initiations, and at the time, I think we always kind of we kind of know there'll be the medicine we needed, but when we're going through it, and for those who are going through the medicine right now, and I know there are a lot of you in our audience that are going through the medicine, sit with the medicine, guys. Sit with the dragon, calm the dragon, integrate the dragon, because when you do, it often becomes the superpower. It often becomes the cheerleader in your journey. So thank you for sharing that and sharing that with the audience. And moving on, the dragon metaphor and the transformation. It obviously is in the title of the book, No Gold Without the Dragon. What does the dragon symbolize for you?
Well, the dragon is an agent of change, right? An alchemical agent. Through the dragon, we find the gold, okay, the spiritual gold. But I want to go back a little bit into like dragon energy and dragon in myth and fairy tales, because often in fairy tales, the dragon is portrayed as a destructive force, right? Something to be feared and conquered, and usually the dragon is slayed to restore peace. And No Gold Without the Dragon turns this relationship with the dragon around. So as the title suggests, so instead of slaying the dragon, we sit with the dragon in each encounter to acquire the insight. It's through that sitting with the dragon, through befriending the dragon, that we there's some kind of transcendence, right? There's some kind of transmutation. So yeah, the whole concept that I was working with is like going against sort of the cultural mythology and saying, no, we don't slay the dragon, we befriend it. And the dragon is in fact the guardian of treasures. So yeah, that is the guardian of the spiritual gold.
Okay, because I'm very aware of dragons. I see people in the audience who love the dragon and often talk about the dragon energy. I was in Wales over Christmas visiting my sister, and we went up to the Bracker Beacon hunting for dragons, and I was so disappointed I didn't see any. But anyway.
I hope you weren't going to slay it with a sword.
No, we weren't. I wanted to befriend it. It was freezing cold, and we were desperate to see dragons, but it didn't happen. But I kind of believe that one day I will. So I keep an open mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we come to this point, Heather, in healing journeys about people's fear in diving into their own transformation, going into the grit, What is your advice to someone who feels hesitant to go into their grit and into their dragon?
Well, it is this concept of befriending the dragon, but sitting with it, sitting with it with a lot of, like I call it wild patience. You need a lot of patience and a lot of compassion to sit with that dragon, with that shadow self. I want to tell another little story about dragons because I think it answers the question in a sort of allegorical way. So a long time ago, I lived in Hong Kong for a while. And there was a place called Repulse Bay on Hong Kong Island where there's a hotel. And this hotel was like really odd. There was a big hole in the middle of the hotel, like huge, couple of stories. And the story was that when the hotel was being built, it came to the attention of people that it was blocking a dragon pathway from the mountains to the sea. And everybody was like horrified because this was considered really bad luck. So this whole middle section of the hotel was knocked out so that the dragon could have an unobstructed pathway to the sea. And the lesson here was that the energy, the dragon gate, keeping the dragon gates open is super important. So keeping the energetic pathways open for powerful forces inside is really important. You can't ignore the dragons. You can't keep a lid on them. You've got to have dragon gates. You've got to like open up and allow the dragons to fly, allow the energy to flow, in other words. So it's just another way of answering that question that, we can't keep these powerful forces locked up. We have to go there.
Because otherwise there's just this massive
Yeah, destruction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fire goes out of control.
Yeah, the shadow of the fire.
Yeah.
Fire energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, rather than the incredible power of the flight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly that. Brilliant. Thank you. So I just want to talk a little bit about quantum healing, stroke energy healing, unless there's a different definition for you, but quantum healing, do you want to just describe that in some simple terms so that as we continue our conversation, everyone, if they're new people to healing, they can have some understanding of it?
Okay, so quantum healing it falls within the very broad definition of, broad definition of energy medicine, okay? And all energy medicine, what it's about is moving and transmuting energy in some way. And what we have to understand is that why this works is that if we look at the quantum world, everything is energy, everything is connected within a unified field. And with any type of energy healing work, whether it's, quantum healing or Reiki or anything else, we are working with that invisible underlying energetic fabric to initiate change at the more visible physical level. Okay. So, yeah, we also in quantum healing, I think for me, why I came up with I started calling what I was doing quantum healing rather than energy healing, is that a lot of my work was at a distance. So especially during COVID, I mean, that was the only way I was working. So I really needed to use that kind of quantum, that notion of connectivity and quantum entanglement and the informational field in order to be able to tap into whatever my clients on the other side of the world were experiencing. So we dived into this, we tapped into this informational field, or we do tap into this informational field to get insight into what might be going on for someone. And just another aspect here is we always wanting to go into like that deeper layer, the energetic layer, the root cause of where energy is actually stuck. And that energy could be stuck in a past life. It could be stuck in an ancestral line. It could be stuck. So it's an underlying energetic fabric. But if someone's energy is stagnant or frozen, it's going to create problems at an emotional or psychological or physical level. Whereas on the other hand, if energy is flowing and you have more life force energy, then those kinds of issues often just dissolve, and we can move beyond them. So that's ultimately what it's all about.
You were talking about that stagnant energy. Do you want to give us an example of a client or somebody you worked with whose energy was stagnant? Because you also mentioned, that in the book.
I think everybody who's ever come to see me, the energy has initially been a little bit stagnant and not flowing, and that's what we work with. But I'm trying to think of an example of somebody where it was really extreme. So what comes to mind is a young woman. In the book, she's called Fazlin. None of the names in the book are the real names, by the way. And she was suffering from like really debilitating migraines, and she'd been to doctors and neurologists, and basically no one could find a physical cause. So in our first session together, I felt that it was very clear that the cause of her symptoms was stress, and especially her relationship with a very demanding boss. And she kept using the word pressure over and over again. So her healing process, her healing journey with me was a lot about, while we were trying to get the energy to flow in her body, but it was also about she had to learn how to manage her stress so that this pressure didn't build up. But energetically, the picture was all the energy was concentrated around her head, literally like a pressure cooker. So we had to get that energy right down, like down into the lower body. And also she had to learn how to ground, because she was totally ungrounded. So she wasn't able to process any of her stress. So all of those things came into it, teaching her how to manage stress, how to ground, how to keep her energy in her lower energy body. And then ultimately, in this particular case study, we had to go to sort of root cause of root cause, which was her childhood trauma, as it so often is. And that was, you know, in a fairly dysfunctional family where, yeah, alcoholic father, and she was taking care of all her siblings. And so she had this incredible sense of responsibility, taking care of everybody. And she was still financially supporting all her siblings. So she had to unlearn this pattern of looking after everybody and, you know, not taking on so much responsibility. So you can see in the story how it's always a combination of working with the energy. We had to get it to flow and all of that, but we also had to look at the patterns that were keeping this energetic patterning in place, right?
So those patterns are the dragon, right?
Yeah, you could look at it like that. It's the shadow, it's the trauma layers, it's the unresolved stuff that was not necessarily so conscious for her when we started out on her healing journey together.
And that's the beauty of energy, isn't it? Because it's that layer deeper than psychology. It's the layer deeper than, and I'm not saying we shouldn't see psychologists or doctors here, but I'm just saying energy gives us that extra layer to go into and to work with. And then I really, because I think you talk about this a lot in the book about stagnant bringing, you know, returning to wholeness, Heather, is something you use quite often. And what does that mean in the context of energy healing? I mean, for you, I think we all have a kind of picture if we're energy healers, but for you, what is this wholeness? Because I think right now in the world it is just so frigging important that we are finding that within ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, for me, I think wholeness is about integrity of being, right? When all parts, the mind, body, spirit, heart, are integrated and in some kind of alignment. And I think we've lost so much of this innate wholeness in our Western society, particularly. We've been cut off from our hearts, we've disconnected from our bodies often, from the earth, from nature. And as a result, we often alienated from our spirit, from our soul. So for me, healing ultimately is about reconnection and realignment with all these different aspects of being, and to forge a deeper, more harmonious connection with our authentic self, right? So the self that is aligned with the soul and our soul gifts and our soul purpose. And the art of healing, I think, as a healer is to be able to hold a space for the client to return to wholeness, to have that inner transformation. So it really is an alchemical process. Yeah, it's not a straight line. It doesn't happen in one session where you say, right, it's not like going to the doctor and they say, right, the migraine, you need to take a pill because there's a problem with this, this artery or whatever. It's not a straight line. It's more like a spiral, which is that symbol for the ancient symbol for the journey inward, as we know. So, yeah.
And we also have to just patience, right? Stillness, patience. Sit with. I mean, what does my voice say? When someone says, Cindy, go and sit with it. And I just, I'm not going to say, tame the dragon, Cindy. I think that might work better. So it would sound more like an adventure, which it is, as we know. It is an adventure. Our journeys are adventures into the energy. Anyway, back to some of this energy healing and your case studies. Really, is there a story that deeply moved you or changed your perspective as a healer? Whether, because kind of you were on a path, and then was there something that shifted your perspective in your journey?
Cindy, I felt nearly all my clients taught me something. And I had days in my healing room where I was just blown away. I was just, my perspective was changing all the time. And I felt like I was on the edge of this knowledge frontier all the time, and I learned so much. So, but I want to give an example of somebody I worked with really early on. I think it was in 2009, and I was a real rookie healer. And in the book, she's called Kamsala. And it was during the swine flu epidemic in South Africa. I don't know if you remember that. And she was in a coma in hospital. And then she developed a secondary infection, and the doctors had given up, saying she wasn't responding to antibiotics. So her husband contacted me like really frantically. He was pretty desperate. And so I said, well, look, I don't know if I can do healing here, but I'll communicate with her. Let me see if I can communicate with her, telepathically, and see if we can, find out what's going on the other side. And so I did that. I sat with her, and she was really sitting on the fence. She didn't really want to come back. She had been suffering with severe depression, and she didn't really want to continue with her life path. But what I learned that day was it wasn't my role to persuade her either way. It was really just to hold space, really just to listen. As healers, we often want to dive in, we want to fix things. And obviously, I wanted a good outcome for her husband. Nobody wants to lose somebody. But my guides were absolutely crystal clear. They said, you are not allowed to interfere with her choice. So I had to be really careful in that conversation. But we had a long chat about depression, and obviously I was really hoping that it would help. Thankfully, she did choose to come back. And in fact, the very next day, she turned a corner and she made an incredible recovery. But the lesson for me was huge, especially starting out as a healer, was that, spiritual permission is key. Like even in a life and death situation, we can't go against someone's free will. And more than that, we can't know what's in someone's highest good. So, yeah, that was a very deeply moving and steep learning curve.
Really, really important lesson, and Heather, one that is very close to my heart around healing, because I feel people so want to help other people. And in fact, next month sometime, we're going to create a debate. We're going to go into the inquiry of the healer and being the witness, and how we do that authentically, because there's a lot going on around healers at the moment, and just learning that specific lesson of I'm here to witness the other. I'm here to ignite the healing, which is just what you said, and not being the hero. They're the hero of their own journey. You can't be the hero. So I'm so glad you brought it up, because it's something that I just really, with the healing course and facilitating that, is really supporting our healers to be able, as when they come out, to learn that witnessing. Yes. And not the helper, not the archetype, the shadow of the archetype of the healer. And we're going to go to lots of debates about that in kind of the end of February and March. So I'm excited about that, and I know a lot of the healers are on the call. So we're going to get in, we're going to go into breakout rooms, and we're going to really inquire about that in these times.
Right. Yeah, so important.
It's so important. So I'm so pleased that, to learn that early on in your healing journey and witness that is vital to one's healing journey, in my opinion. So I'm just so glad you brought that up. Thank you. Then I want to bring in the dance with the guides, because you talk about the creative dance between the healer, the guides, and the client or the recipient of the healing. Can you share the role of your healing guides and the responsibility of the healer, and then the responsibility of the guides?
Yeah, I'm laughing because I've had many really kind of humorous encounters with my guides and my team over the years. But the bottom line is, as a healer, you form a very strong working partnership with your spirit guides or your team. they're constantly showing you what's going on in the healing process with your clients, how to deal with sometimes tricky issues, and they also jump in to protect you when needed. So it's an incredible relationship. And over the years, I've worked with many spirit guides, because different spirit guides will show up for different issues. So I want to share one story. It is in the book, and it was quite funny at the time. It was at a time when I was suddenly working with a lot of patients with cancer at various stages. And I didn't necessarily have the medical knowledge. I was working energetically. And one day, an elderly Chinese guide showed up in dark blue overalls and said he could give me medical information or medical assistance. And I was a bit suspicious. You know how we always have to check out, you know, are you a being of light, etc. And I sort of raised an eyebrow at him, thinking, who are you and why the blue overalls? And then he said one word. He said to me, Mao. And I was like, okay. And then he started laughing. And turns out he was a doctor during the Cultural Revolution in China.
Wow.
I know. So it was really funny at the time, because it was just how he revealed himself was so humorous. But it was also how I knew he was a genuine guide, right?
Yeah.
And anyway, he over the years, he was very helpful, and he had an amazing, you know, medical knowledge. And I still don't know why I got a Chinese guide, but that's that's who came and to help me. And I mean, the other thing that can happen in the healing room is, you know, I've had clients' guides popping in to the healing
Yeah.
space. And that can be a bit unsettling, because, of course, these are beings that are, you know, I'm not familiar with, but they want to be there. And in one case, this is also in the book, a client called Ginny, she had an ET guide who really did look like a really alien. And he arrived, and he didn't stand back respectfully. He really took over the session. He was really bossy, but he was also super helpful, because he showed me some techniques. This was a starseed client that I would not have, you know, I had not been trained in. So I was learning a lot. And we had a good laugh afterwards, Jenny and I, because she hadn't really warned me that this might happen. But yeah, it was quite fun. And I think, you know, the other point of this is that we learn a lot from the guides. You know, they're part of the team. Yeah.
And I think, Heather, just around the work that you're doing in your school, the Emerald School, you know, the beings that are coming through, the galactic teams that we're seeing so much more and more, that are new to us, that are showing up, that aren't there before. So those of you that are healers, you know, be curious about if new beings are showing up at this time, you know, because we are moving, and the veil, we're merging in, as I understand. So I think it's exciting times, and I think, you know, really, you know, from this experience, I just want to ask, moving on from the guides, what are the most common energetic blocks that you're seeing at this time, you know, at the moment, and that you share in your book, Heather?
Well, this is not something I shared in my book particularly, but just, you know, following on from our conversation about the guides and the galactic beings, what I'm seeing a lot of is starseed children. So, you know, kids coming in that have, you know, the origins are from other parts of the cosmos. Some of them have never had a lifetime on Earth before. And many of these children are struggling with density. They're struggling to, you know, be in a place where they're not particularly understood, so they can be highly sensitive, highly telepathic, and the people around them are not necessarily getting it, you know. So for me, this is a whole area that requires not only a lot of sensitivity on the part of healers and knowledge, you know, healers needing to help these kids to, you know, be in a body and navigate density, but there's a huge call for education, for parents of starseed children. It's not something that, you know, I'm involved in, but I'm just putting it out there because I think that a lot of these star kids are going to gravitate to healers, and I think it's amongst healers that this kind of movement is going to arise.
mm,
It's
mm,
from within the ranks of healers. That's my sense of it. And teachers, right? Teachers at school who also encountering, starseed children. So, I mean, I'm digressing, but I think this is really part of the new of what's coming in and what we being, we have to actually understand and be curious and learn.
It's interesting. Yeah, today I actually I interviewed a really young person for our healing course, and they were healing with their grandmother at the age of 3, like holding space in the healing room for their grandmother. It was like,
I know.
okie dokie,
Yeah.
like this is
New generation.
interesting. Yeah, new generation, and you're kind of going, ooh, okay, and
Yeah.
but the embodiment and the grounding in the matter is the struggle and noise and those kind of things. So yeah, I mean, those of you who have kids and are healers, really, or working with younger people, it's definitely new territory and whatever, but exciting, right?
Yeah, it is. I feel this is a new frontier because it's almost as if, this is how evolution is happening. It's like, we are merging with other realms in the cosmos through the new children coming in, literally. But this transition is difficult because we don't, these kids are struggling. But for many people, this is going back to, the book and also what I've encountered over my years of healing is that many, many people struggle with being embodied, being grounded. Grounding is always such a big issue. It has been for me in my life, but for many people I work with. And it's often the underlying issue is that people don't feel safe. And this can be a lot to do with childhood trauma. But often when we go to the underlying of that, it's that they don't feel safe in a body. They don't really want to be here. They haven't made a full commitment to being here. They'd rather actually be in the sort of playing in the higher frequencies. And so there's often a lot of work around helping people to really ground and be in their bodies and be committed, It's like committed to being here.
Yeah. Yeah. But also the way, those of us who are embodied and grounded, just being that whole witness for and creating a space and holding that instead of going, well, it's like hold the space, just hold the space, hold your wholeness so you witness that. And I think that's so important. So thank you for that. And I think even moving on, is there anything more you want to say about what is healing play in the collective shift of our consciousness? Because this conversation then moves on, where are we shifting, Heather? What is our role?
It plays a very significant role. I mean, as a collective, I think we've, not just healers, but all of us, with any kind of, awareness, have been doing so much healing and clearing the trauma layers, upgrading our light bodies, and we've created collectively a new energetic foundation for the ascension process, if you like. And through our own healing, we've been clearing our personal trauma and our ancestral healing and our past life, but this has obviously played a role in clearing the collective, like, trauma layers. And that's what we're busy with at the moment. We are clearing the trauma layers, we're clearing the fear grids that were installed during the Middle Ages. We're clearing fear, basically. And so healers play a really big role in holding the space for people to do that personal work, that deep inner alchemy, because that's what it takes. And ultimately, the more we clear our personal trauma and fear, the more we clear fear in the field, we clear density. And this is what's necessary in order for the frequency shift to happen on the planet, for the frequency to rise. And we all play a part in that frequency shift.
Yeah. So, in fact, as part of this healing series that we're doing, on the 27th, myself, Soleil, and Mark are going to do an inquiry panel into the future human. What will the role of the healer be? So this is a lovely introduction into, what is our role going to be? And then I think moving on to that, if we just talk about your education and as a healer and, Heather, what would you have done if you weren't a healer the last 15 years? Question mark. And just talk into that a little bit for me.
What would I have done?
Yeah, I mean, this is your career. I mean, would you have chosen, if I sit here today, would you have chosen something else?
I mean, the question is just like I don't have an answer because I can't imagine doing anything else. Except, I mean, I have morphed from being a healer. I'm not actively healing at the moment to being a teacher of healing and energy tools. So, but it's a progression rather than doing something else. I think healing is a calling. It is a vocation. It's you throw yourself into this kind of devoted service. So it's a complete way of life. It's not something you do. It's not a 9-to-5 job and then evenings and weekends you do something else. It's a way of life. You walk the path of a healer. Now, I can't really imagine doing or having, doing anything else or having done anything else. Sorry, I don't really.
That's why I asked the question. It was like, well, what a stupid question, Cindy, because what else would I have done? And the growth. And you're accredited with BAHA, the British Alliance of Healing Association. Can you tell us why, talking about the future healer or whatever, do you think qualifications like this are important?
Absolutely. It's absolutely essential. I mean, for many reasons. I mean, the first is just that for the integrity of the profession, for the integrity of healers, it's really important to be held in a sort of a professional accredited framework. And the qualification itself is just a very important foundation and grounding in the ethos, in the tools, in how to hold space for clients. There's so many aspects to that training, which doesn't happen if you do a kind of a weekend course and then you go on to practice. So I find it's incredibly important. And I think it's also part of energy medicine becoming more mainstream.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about, really.
Yeah. I think for me, one of the biggest anchors that BAHA created was the code, that very in-depth code of conduct that then, depending where we use it in the world, has become, best practice. And although sometimes people think it's quite restrictive, actually, it's something to go back to when you need a framework. So thank you for that.
Can I add something there, Cindy, that I feel very important?
Yes.
It's a framework for the healer, but it's also a framework that makes clients feel safe.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. Heather, before we go on to your beautiful meditation, if somebody's thinking about being a healer, and we have a number of healers on the call, what's your advice on this journey? What are the things you would say to people wanting to become a healer and those who are stepping into this as their profession, as their career?
Well, I'd say first and foremost, find a good training course and dive right in, but get the training and get the support to do your own healing work as well. It's a very important part of the journey because you are the instrument at the end of the day as a healer. You are the channel, you are the instrument. Yeah.
Thank you. So anyone who is interested, the school offers 18 months comprehensive, whatever, for any of you new, please reach out. It will come out with a recording video, email tomorrow. There will be a link. fill in an application, have a chat. Even if you're just thinking about it, start the conversation with me. We've got an in-person in London, an in-person in Cape Town, and an online course, all sort of starting over March and April. So it's a great time. And in fact, Heather was with us when we launched the first Baha Healing accredited course at the school in Cape Town all those years ago, where we kind of got to know each other. So it's a beautiful circle to where we are right now. And I think, Heather, I really would like us to do some energy medicine work with you, because I know people are waiting. So I said, shut up now so we can do some energy work. So I'm going to hand over to you. I'm going to mute myself. It's possible for 15 minutes. So over to you.
Okay, so we're going to do an Earth Star grounding meditation. And I'm going to invite you just to get comfortable, but make sure that you've got a lovely straight spine. Make sure your feet are on the ground. And when you're ready, just closing your eyes, perhaps placing your hands on your heart and breathing into the heart. Nice, even breaths in your own rhythm. Breathing deeply, dropping your awareness down to your belly, feeling your body softening, feeling the weight of your body on the chair, and feeling your feet on the ground. And imagine your energy flowing down to your feet, all the way down, feeling the gentle pull of gravity. And just take a moment to connect with your body and feel your energy flowing all the way down, 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 down your legs into your feet. And ask yourself, am I present in my body right now? And then focus on the base of your spine and imagine a silver grounding cord from the base of the spine. And it extends down through the middle of your Earth Star chakra, which is below your feet, and down through the foundations of your home, down through the soil, the layers of rock, the crystalline grids, and right down, down into the very center of the earth, where Mother Earth is pulsating with the energy of pure creation. And let your cord wrap around a crystal or a rock, anchoring you into the earth, connecting you to this powerful source of earth energy. And just take a moment now to feel this connection with Mother Earth and ask yourself, am I connected with Mother Earth right now? And tap into this deep well of earth energy, the creative force at the core of the earth, and let it flow up your grounding cord as liquid light. And it flows all the way up to your Earth Star chakra, which is a large silver orb of light just below your feet. And if you can't see your Earth Star, don't worry. Just imagine a large silvery orb about 30 centimeters below your feet. And once you've connected with it, use the flow of earth energy to activate it. So it's filling up with earth energy, which is coming up your cord. And as it does that, it's expanding outwards. It's getting bigger and bigger. So you might be able to see that expansion or just feel it. But just however it happens for you, however you sense it, let your Earth Star get bigger and expand right out to the edge of your aura, about an arm's length out on either side and back and front. So it's like this big disc. And as it expands to the edge of your aura, it's activating, and your Earth Star frequency is rising. And as it does so, it gets brighter and brighter, radiating silvery light in all directions. The Earth Star is your energetic foundation in 5D and connects you with Earth energy and Gaia consciousness. When it's activated like this, it grounds you more deeply and creates a strong anchor for your 5D chakra column, your fifth dimensional frequencies. So just take a moment to allow this potential, let it settle in your body and your being. And then you're going to let the earth energy that is coming up through your grounding cord keep flowing upward. It's going to go up through your base chakra, up through the sacral and the solar plexus and up into your heart, spiraling. It's a spiraling energy, a moving awareness. And let this earth energy flow into your heart chakra, which is a pink orb of light in the center of your chest. And just feel the expansion as earth energy fills your heart, breathing deeply, allowing your heart to open gently. And as your heart energy expands, you might experience physical sensations. So just allow your heart to open, don't force it, and let the pink orb of light get bigger and brighter. Breathing deeply, find your center, and then take your focus upward, way, way up into the cosmos, connecting with Source and the highest frequency of Source energy, which is pure love energy. And let this pure Source energy flow down towards you in a continuous stream of shimmering white light. It flows through the top of your aura, through the crown, and all the way down the chakra column into your heart, filling it with Source love and white light, creating swirls of pink and white. So feel your heart expanding as it fills with pure Source energy, the pink-white swirls, expanding, activating the energies of love and wisdom and compassion. And as your heart expands, your frequency is rising, and your heart light is getting brighter and brighter. If you want to expand, allow for the expansion even more, you can even open your arms to the side. Just, it's like your heart wings, just feeling that expansion, allowing it, just allowing the opening of the heart. And then send this energy outwards, radiating out in concentric circles beyond your body, beyond your aura, out into the unified field as far as you're comfortable for it to go. So you now are very deep in your earth star and very wide with your heart energy vibrating with love. This is a powerful place to be. So just feel that power, that groundedness, that heart-centeredness. And then just draw your heart energy in a bit. Put a bubble of pink, white light around yourself. Check your grounding cord is firmly anchored down through the earth star and into the earth. And center yourself in your open heart and become aware of being fully present in this moment. And say to yourself, I am grounded, present, and my heart is radiating pure love. So I invite you, as we end off, to perhaps make a choice right now to make a commitment to be here, deeply grounded, fully embodied, and committed to your life path and using your gifts. And if you're not ready to make this commitment, that's completely fine. The possibility is available to you at any time. And you can slowly open your eyes, return to the space between us. Notice how you feel, maybe have a stretch. Notice if your energy has shifted in any way.
Oh,
Yeah.
Heather, beautiful. I just love that Earth star and that just feeling like embodied and being present. Thank you so much. I hope everyone just feels as grounded as and centered as I do. That was just beautiful, Heather. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Before we ask the audience if they have any questions for you, I've got a couple of final questions, and that is, after today, what do you hope for people to take away from your book and your journey?
You know, most of all, inspiration, I think, and perhaps courage to follow your own calling, you know, whether that's as a healer or some other gift, but to use your gifts and yeah, dive in.
Exactly that. And then Heather as well, because I think while we do take some questions and answers, some people might need to go. But do you want to just, where can people find you and what's next at the Emerald Wisdom School? I think it's really important. Yeah.
Yeah, well, the best way is my the Emerald Wisdom School website, which is just emeraldwisdomschool.com. And the best way to stay in touch is and get notifications of upcoming offerings is just to join my mailing list. And when people join the mailing list, you'll get a free 5D chakra activation, a guided activation, which is really amazing if you want to start working with the 5D frequencies. The next thing upcoming is I'm doing a masterclass on the 27th of March called Energetic Sovereignty, and a 6-week online course called The Energetics of the Fifth Dimension, which is going to be in May, June. I don't have the start date for that yet, but that will be coming up soon. Yeah, and the book is available online, I mean, on a lot of different platforms. But there is a book page on the website, and if you go onto that, then it shows you many of the different platforms like Amazon, like IndieBound, like, you know, Barnes and Noble online, etc. So it is available there.
That's wonderful. Heather, thank you for your wisdom and knowledge. Does anyone have any questions before we drop off? I think, you know, were there any burning questions? You can either just unmute yourself or type something in the chat. Yeah. So we have a really good question. How can we find out if she is a star seed?
You know, there isn't any sort of like definitive way of knowing. It's more about, you know, it depends if you're talking about a child or an adult. My answer would be different. But in children, the signs are often that they are hypersensitive. They're also often communicating telepathically with animals. They're communicating telepathically with their friends. They are struggling to sit in classrooms because they're not used to learning that way. So there would be a lot of signs like that. One of the difficulties that a lot of these things often get confused with all sort of diagnoses like ADHD, like, you know, all sorts of neurodiversity. And I think it's also important to check those things out. But like with everything, it's also important to inquire a little bit more deeply And if you do have a child in your circle who you think might be a starseed, well, then perhaps you could take them to a healer, take them to a psychic, somebody who might be able to give you that kind of information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's thank you. What is the best way to connect with your guides? Catherine, it's a whole depth of things that you can find some good meditations online that can help you. Yeah, or actually you could we're doing a spiritual development course which starts quite soon, and we do meeting your guides in there. So if you just contact the school, Roween will be in touch.
I've
I'd
got
like
a
to know.
masterclass on our website, Cindy, called Meet Your Spirit Guides. It's a recorded one. So
Perfect.
that's also available for purchase on the website.
Excellent. That and discernment. You've seen Heather tonight. She's grounded. She's in her body. And if you really want to do that, then that would be really a good idea. Somebody asked a very good question about, and I just want to go there. I'd like to know a bit about soul retrieval. Is this about past lives or is it about trauma? Such a good question.
Yeah, very good question. And the answer to that is both. It can be both.
Yeah.
So very often it is about trauma in childhood where an aspect has dissociated or split off because it's been, too difficult to stay present. That is normally a fairly straightforward soul retrieval because we're dealing with the current life. But it can get more complex when a soul fragment is located in a past life, and it's more sometimes then the story is more complicated and it's further away. So sometimes there's quite a bit of work that will need to happen around clearing a past life trauma in order to retrieve that aspect of the soul.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else before we all go and have our dinners or go to bed if we're in the southern hemisphere and you've had your dinner? Anything more? I just want to send gratitude and love to Heather for jumping on our platform, sharing her book and her wisdom and her knowledge with us. I truly appreciate it. And then to our community, thank you so much for showing up, being here, and yeah, just being part of it. Over to you for the final word, Heather.
Thank you, Cindy. Well, yeah, I wanted to say thank you so much for inviting me. It's been really amazing to chat to you. And, I don't often get a chance to chat about healing. And yeah, it's a wonderful topic. So thank you for the opportunity. And I want to end with one last thing about the Earth Star, because I think it's really pertinent to you and the school in London. You've heard about the Earth chakras, and London is actually the Earth Star chakra of the Earth, of the planet.
It is indeed.
So I want to mention that because for all you guys over there, it's really, really important for you to be Earth Star anchors, activators and anchors. So I just wanted to end with that.
I'm in. Yeah. I will brace the cold by connecting to the Earth Star for humanity.
Absolutely. You go, girl.
Everyone, see you soon. There will be recordings, there will be links to Heather's website, there'll be links to the healing course. So don't worry, it will all come to you. Otherwise, there's a WhatsApp on our website. But thank you all. Have a brilliant evening. Have a great weekend. And we'll see you very soon, one way or the other at the school. Lots of love, everyone. Have a good one. Bye.
Lots of love. Bye.
Bye.